All right, what's up, YouTube? I'm very excited to come to you today to talk about two of my favorite slept on indicators. One is open interest, or as I refer to it, OI, and the other is funding. So, funding rates, basically, what are the margin traders paying? We'll get into it more, but let's just jump straight into it. Okay, first question. Where can we view this stuff? Before we get into what it actually is, where do we need to go? Coinglass.com. COIN and then glass.com brings you to this page. So the two things we're going to be looking at today are open interest and funding rate. Open interest and funding. So let's jump straight into open interest. And while we scroll to the right part of the page, I'm going to go over what this actually is. So the way that I look at this, the way I describe this typically is how much has retail maxed out mom's credit card to buy crypto? Okay, and this is a very powerful way of thinking about it because there comes a point where there's no more money left. And the theory goes, if you can kind of follow to where basically there's no more money available to be borrowed on margin, or at least it's prohibitively expensive to borrow, then you can likely line that up with a top, a medium to macro time frame top. And lo and behold, that has happened the last couple of times. So if we kind of zoom, I'm going to adjust this so we're only looking at 2021 to 2022. So there we go. We see the adjustment. And what we're looking at, this kind of cake looking thing, looks like pudding. These are all the different exchanges and what their current open interest is. This is the number, the size of positions that are open at any given moment. And if we look at this graph, there's two distinct peaks, and overlaid onto this graph is this yellow line, which is the price of Bitcoin. So you can very quickly see that, oh, look, this first peak lined up with Bitcoin's first all-time high, the first visit to the new all-time high at 63, 64,000, whatever it was, back in April of 2021. And the second big peak we see correlated with the November peak where it went to 65, 67, 69, whatever whatever exchange you use, the actual all-time high. So today's all-time high, looking back. So at the moment, these were both all-time highs, and they were both all-time highs on open interest. In fact, if I back this thing up into 2020, you can see how there was very little open interest coming into this last bull run. And so it was a massive exponential growth during 2021 and 2022 as far as the margin positions go on these exchanges. Now you'll notice that on the first peak, the total, and you can see this at the bottom of this box that pops up, was 27 billion in open interest. All right, so then in the second peak, let's see what that one was. That was also tapped out at 27 to 28 billion as well. So now we have kind of a ceiling. Remember the last video we talked about support and resistance. We kind of found our resistance line. So we have this line in the sand, and I'm sure it will change from cycle to cycle or year to year even. But at least for now, we have this level that's floating above us that says, hey, you know what? 27 to 28K 27 to 28 billion in open interest is probably where I should be very mindful of having any kind of long exposure. We use that as a way to correlate with other things we're seeing, actual technicals on the charts, what the candles are showing, that kind of thing. So this is a good supplementary informational tool, but it's not one thing that I will trade exclusively. So bringing that to present, today is April the 4th. And what we can see is that there is 20 billion, roughly a little over 19 billion, 20 billion or so in open interest. So pretty high, not at the all-time high, definitely not at the lows. The lows back in July were about 10 billion. So we are somewhere in that no man's land, that kind of mid-range, and that kind of lines up with price action, being at this 45 to 46,000 per Bitcoin. So it all kind of correlates, but it doesn't give us really an effective thing to use right now. So the next thing I would look at, the funding rate. So we scroll up and we click on funding rate. Now this is one of the things that I pull up in my stream very consistently. And so I'm very happy to make a video to go over this because I get lots of questions. And so now I can just point to this video and people can look at it. So what we're going to look at is really this line right here, going all the way across, this first one, and then where it says Bitcoin, and then right below it says predicted. We're going to look at that. So let's look at nothing else except these two lines right now. So we use it to identify, are the buyers like overly confident or are the sellers? Who is positioned for a rug pull? Because at the end of the day, that's what we're trying to figure out with this, is who's about to get rugged. Is it the buyers or the sellers? So if you can see somebody stacked up, if you see it solid green with big negative numbers, big negative numbers all across the board, even, you know, all Bitcoin exchanges, all the alts, then that would give you a nod, a kind of a clue that things are probably about to just rug to the upside. Big green candle going upwards. So that is what we're looking at on Bitcoin. Now, there's two sections. You may have already noticed it. There's USDT and USD margin, and then token margin. Token margin is like if I sent actual Bitcoin to an exchange and then I leveraged that Bitcoin to buy or sell more Bitcoin. So for example here, OKEX, that is a heavy long signal. So a lot of bulls on OKEX have sent tokens, have sent Bitcoin, and longed it heavily. This is a big number with traditionally compared to what we usually see. Now, you'll also notice that across OKEX, this was in the predicted line. And you'll notice that there's the secondary line on each of these are the predicted lines. And that's why that's going all the way down. So OKEX specifically has gone heavily long on pretty much, you know, most of the alts shown up here as well as Bitcoin. So that is something I would keep an eye on. That's, you know, maybe that's a good sell signal. Who knows, right? So you should back test this kind of stuff and whatever. But in this scenario, that the across the board, if we look at Bitcoin specific and we look at how things are positioned right now, as well as how the market is adjusting in real time and how people think that these numbers will adjust within a certain time period, within an 8-hour time period. So if we take these two things to heart, then what we can see is basically it's net neutral pretty much across the board. You got some reds, you got some greens. And the predicted is basically net neutral as well. Now, there was this big swell in OKEX, but, you know, we're looking across 20 data points and they don't really all correlate. There's just really one that stands out. So in my mind, in my analysis, I would say, okay, net neutral. And I would move on to my next thing. I would go to whatever else I'm looking at. So looking at Ethereum, it looks like the market was heavily short across the board. And I say that because this is a pretty big number for shorts, as is Gate and BitGet. And a couple others that have adjusted since I started the video. But now the predicted line has gone to neutral. So it's gone from short to neutral, from short to neutral, from short to long, from neutral to long. So now it looks like people are swinging the pendulum from maybe being a little too short versus Ethereum to maybe being a little too long. So it'd be interesting to see in hindsight what happens, you know, an hour, 2 hours a day, 2 days from now to see are the shorts going to did the shorts get longed right now, and are the longs about to get rugged, you know, the other way, because this market's been very choppy. So if you're a chop trader, sometimes this can be a very powerful tool, and I might recommend that you spend a little time kind of studying it, seeing how it correlates to the price action based on your own analysis. So this is what I tell everybody, whether it's in a live stream or in a YouTube video, come up with your own plan and back test it. So I am trying to provide you with tools to put in your tool kit, in your tool belt, and for you to come up with your own plan and use it effectively, hopefully. Okay, guys, I think that's going to do it this time. Thank you for your support. Be sure to like and subscribe and follow me on Twitch at twitch.tv/CryptoJack and also on Twitter at _CryptoJack. Thank you, guys. I'll see you next time.